What's up everyone, this is your captain speaking, and today I'm so excited for Mayhem League, and I'm going over the builds that you should play if you want to earn a demigod's authority. The number one thing to increase your odds of getting a demigod's is to play a shit ton, but the number two thing you can do is play a non-meta ascendancy. Easiest way to determine what is meta is to look at the PoE Ninja builds section, which shows the top 15,500 characters in a league. Looking at the representation, we see Raider, Berserker, and Inquisitor all below 1% of the top 15,000. And everyone else can also see this information, so I imagine that anything with a 2% presence or less right now will have relatively the same amount of presence as each other, with a slight emphasis on the ascendancies that are easier to gear. Non-meta ascendancies I predict to be more popular for this is Hierophant, Saboteur, Chieftain, Slayer, Juggernaut, and Berserker. All the Marauder ascendancies are there because slams and impale/bleed are easy to get going. See the gauntlet characters. This also works for Slayer. Hierophant is there for the default totem ascendancy, and Saboteur as a default mine/trap ascendancy. This leaves Inquisitor, Deadeye, and Raider as the ascendancies that I predict to be the lowest presence. This video will have an Inquisitor build, a Raider build, and a Saboteur build recommended for this league. Inquisitor and Raider are being recommended because of how unpopular they are, and Saboteur is being recommended because it's easy to gear and get into high tier maps faster on a miner. The three builds in question are Frostblades Raider, Divine Ire Inquisitor, and Toxic Rain Mine Saboteur. Frostblades Raider is a bit of a remnant from the past, back when farming shaped strand maps and shaped mesa maps was the meta, because you could do it on such a shoestring budget. To get the build going, you really only need to dual wield Touch of Anguishes, which have been 1C the past couple leagues since day one. And hopefully it'll also be 1C during this race, but that might not be the case. Once you get both Touch of Anguishes, you'll have no problems just getting to red maps, and you'll even be able to clear red maps with them, but you will probably start to feel the damage fall off in tier 14 plus. Don't forget to use the Fight for Survival jewels for 30% cold pen on your primary target. Having an unlinked Frost Bomb is also another way to increase your penetration by 25% just by throwing it down at the start of the fight. In case you didn't know, Frost Bomb, when it pulses, applies cold exposure to enemies, which lowers their cold resistance by 25%. The bomb does not have to go off for the cold exposure to get applied. Pairing that with an Ancestral Warchief totem and your single target damage will start to feel a lot better. You could even add in a Stormbrand linked to Hex Touch, Frostbite, Power Charge on Critical Strike to add power charges to the build and lower enemy cold resistance even further. For defensive options, we have the high evasion that comes from the nodes on the onslaught side of the Raider Ascendancy. We also have dodge, which comes with the phasing side of the Raider Ascendancy, as well as acrobatics and phase acrobatics on the passive tree. While phasing, our dodge chance works out to be 50% for attacks and 40% for spells. Outside of dodge and evasion, we really only have our health pool to protect us, which is not very high due to being a ranger, but it will probably sit around 5,000 to 6,000 depending on your gear. You could try to fit in a flesh and stone if you de-level your precision, but you really do need the accuracy, since accuracy has become a bigger deal recently. The accuracy problem could be fixed by just having some accuracy on your gloves or rings. For dealing with tier 16 maps, you're going to want to drop the claws and pick up some high PDPS foils with high crit chance, like the ones on the screen. You also get to drop the claw nodes and drop the entire shadow part of the tree while you move down into the duelist side of the tree, pick up the good sword nodes, and pick up even more HP. Once you switch to swords, you're going to want to anoint Tribal Fury on your amulet because you will lose the free chain which comes from Touch of Anguish. A medium cluster jewel with Cold Conduction and Storm Rider notables gives us the ability to generate power charges and shock enemies for 15% more damage, but will probably be pretty hard to obtain in a 1-week race. The background footage for this character is actually not a Raider but a Berserker, because I don't have a Raider Frostblades character currently built, but I did have a Berserker one built. The characters play pretty much identically though. The only difference is the Berserker one is a little faster with more damage, but no dodge or evasion. For even more dodge, we can pick up a node near the shadow area, which gives us elusive on kill. That does it for Raider Frostblades. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I will answer it as soon as I see it. Up next we have Divine Ire Inquisitor. This character can be built with either a staff or wand and shield, but for my example tree it'll be using a staff because the best defense with Divine Ire is a good offense. Even on mediocre league start items, you should be able to get the build in the tier 10 range before you feel the need to start upgrading your gear as bosses become much tankier. This character uses Mind Over Matter and Eldritch Battery to let us reserve all of our mana for damage and then spend Energy Shield, which regens at 200 per second thanks to our Ascendancy. Taking Mind Over Matter makes it so that our Energy Shield still blocks 30% of the incoming damage we take. Thanks to the Inquisitor Ascendancy, we don't have to worry about using anything to help us penetrate resistances because our Ascendancy makes it so our enemies have 0 resistance. For early staffs, you should be looking for plus level to lightning gems or spell skills, cast speed, and spell damage or lightning damage. Your endgame staff should have all the same stats, just higher rolls and more focus on plus levels. For power charge generation and a little bit of defense against single target, you can use an Orb of Storms linked to Hex Touch, Enfeeble, and power charge on critical strike. You can also use Stormbrand instead, but I like to use Orb of Storms myself. There's no one passive that you should anoint for this build that will help too much, so just grab whatever you think will help. Counterweight seems like the best option for damage, but I'll put some other options up on the screen as well. We can use a similar cluster jewel that we did with the Raider with the Storm Rider Notable to generate power charges, or you could rely on the power charge on crit. Finally, when it comes to gearing the character, the most important thing to remember is that Energy Shield is both a resource for casting spells as well as a defense thanks to Mind Over Matter. So you may wish to sacrifice some HP on gear to pick up gear that has both Energy Shield and HP. Overall, having played the build before, I can say that it is a very strong league starter and not as difficult to gear as it may sound. The last build I'm recommending is Toxic Rainmine Saboteur. I have never done this build before, but I see a lot of people talking about how strong of a league starter it is, so I'm going to recommend it. Down below in the description I will have a link to a forum post guide for this build. If you don't like that build, there's plenty of other Toxic Rainmine builds out there that you can also follow. I know Octavian has done one, and I'm sure many other people have. I know I said that Saboteur is probably going to be one of the more popular Ascendancies, but the reason that I'm recommending it is because it's so easy to get into high tier maps as a miner. For defense with the build, you're going to have the dodge from acrobatics and phase acrobatics, along with a blind aura from being a Saboteur, 10% life regeneration for being a Saboteur, and Toxic Rainmines mixed with the Saboteur Ascendancy slow down enemies so much. I won't speak too much on the build, having not played it myself, but I will recommend it based on how easy it will be to gear. And being easy to gear means that you can start pushing for higher levels faster than other people. That does it for this video. Remember, there's only 95 people that are gonna win a Demigod's Bounty, so don't feel too bad if you don't get one. If you have any questions about any of the builds, leave a comment. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe. Consider following me on Twitch. I may be streaming parts of this race as I push for high levels. I may do a similar video for this one for the Endless Delve League if the reception in this video is better than average. I may not have time to make the video. If I am, however, in the top 5 of my Ascendancy. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.